Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, to another Propagandacast Lehr as we take a look at some of the newly added commanders here newly updated commanders here in the December balance update. So starting out here with Recon support, which amongst other things, well, let's just pause and look at the 5 abilities. It has Raid Tactics, INR Pathfinders, Airdrop Combat Group, Greyhound, and Cluster Bombs. The 2 old abilities basically sticking around is INR Pathfinders, Airdrop Combat Group, but they've been updated. Raid Tactics, M8 Greyhound, and M3 Cluster Bomb are the new ones. And basically starting out with Raid Tactics, it's an ability that allows all of your light vehicles, that includes Greyhounds, M20s, Steward light tanks, possibly the ambulance, to basically seize territory and do so fast, allowing you basically to turn all your light vehicles into a much stronger force because they can only do jobs your infantry can only do, which is seize ground, thusly creating some interesting neat synergies with a light vehicle play. So if you like light vehicle play, so yourself, then Recon support is already there. A pretty strong doctrine because being able to seize territory really fast with a lot of light vehicles can quickly swing an entire game around in your favour, at least just gain you a ton of ground. So already there, Recon support is standing out, though Mechanized also gets it. So it's not uniquely here, but it does offer the Greyhound, which the other doctrine does not. So that's just some of the starting elements here. Secondly, we get actually the unarmed Pathfinders, which are now more similar to the airborne Pathfinders, except they don't need to get 1 marksman rifle, and they can still call in artillery. They can also lay down beacons. So in that regard, not so much has changed there, that they have become overall more useful that way, and they can sort of be used to support your troops or your paratroopers. Since again, they can also lay down beacons, which your paratroopers can support from. So that is obviously pretty handy if you know what you're doing. Moving on here to the Airdrop Combat Group, now much cheaper than used to before, where previously it was 900 manpower, it's now 320 manpower, and 80 munitions, which is pretty unique for any sort of call-in. Well, basically you get a paratrooper squad, and you get an anti-tank gun at a reasonable cost. In particular in terms of manpower, you practically get a discount even with the munitions cost there, so that kind of makes it much more practical. And it also, to an extent, overall means alongside with the Greyhound, which we'll get to, the doctrine sort of favourably works with just going for the Lieutenant, because you can basically use the Airdrop Combat Group and the Greyhound to sort of cover up for what you normally get from the company command post. So those are sort of some things there, but essentially you get a paratrooper squad which up either light machine guns or bazookas, and it can I believe they can still lay down mines as well, which means you actually get some very flexible elite infantry compared to a lot of other elite infantry which cannot lay down mines, close the orbital garden, which can lay booby traps. So it's a very sort of strong ability, very quite useful, and again, double light machine gun is very potent. Of course, double bazooka, which while will perform better than your average bazooka, can of course also be useful in case you're sort of getting suddenly flooded with light vehicles or heavy vehicles or whatever. So a very strong call-in ability. And then we get on to the Greyhound, which is sort of like a Steward, except you don't need to tech for it, and it's also slightly cheaper. Plus it canister run, and it gets access to a 50 caliber machine gun. It doesn't have the ability to stun or damage engines, but most people don't use that. For most people, this is not going to make a difference. For those that are, they can always tech for it, and you still go for and call in paratroopers to supposedly make up for the things they'll be lacking in there, since the paratroopers, the light machine guns, can also suppress. So even there are some options. But there you go. The Greyhound out here is reasonably tough. Again, got canister shots, but we can just sort of quickly do some extra damage here and then burst. And you also get access to the pinned mount machine, and that way the Greyhound can do a lot of damage, plus it's fast and reasonably cheap. I've even seen some players go for more than one, and thus you sort of just get really unpleasant against their opponents. And of course it can self-repair, so it's a pretty strong choice there. For the doctrine, again, allows you to just more safely again push for platoon command post, because you can essentially get access to what amounts to a Steward light tank. Finally, you got the Cluster Bombs, which is basically sort of an airborne bombing run. Slightly delayed, but can in theory be used to disrupt your opponent's movements, break up their attacks, their defenses, as you basically just throw down bombs that threaten any infantry that remains there. It's not so good versus garrison units, but it's not completely useless either. And it's not what you're going to use against tanks, for example. But it's overall pretty neat. Just don't expect to immediately take out huge things, but it can be used for disruption. So overall, when you look at the doctrine, I mean, that's obviously mentioned, it works really well with light vehicles. It works well with going for the platoon command post, since it just synergizes very well with it. And in fact, most players who go for it tend to go for the platoon command post. They can play more aggressively with the Lieutenant, maybe 50 calibers, and they can then just sort of use these 2 abilities to make up for that. Plus, of course, with the Greyhound, they can just swiftly seize ground. So it's a very strong doctrine, and certainly a lot more useful than it were before. So if you saw, like, you know, on the air side of it, I mean, again, if you like light vehicles, like early aggression, Recon support is very much your doctrine. It obviously doesn't quite offer as much strength in the late game, but that's obviously what you're looking for. You're looking for pushing for an early advantage, using this doctrine, and consolidating that to this sort of non-doctrinal late game with the battalion command post, so just finishing it before that becomes a problem. So again, strong doctrine, Very flexible, very early game oriented, works great with light vehicles, and of course gives you paratroopers and other fun things. I mean, again, fast, speedy, flexible doctrine, not so much just for pushing ahead and bashing head into a wall with this one though, but overall pretty fun and pretty neat, and certainly I think strongly recommendable to anyone who sort of likes rapid play as the USF. So that sort of covers it, and don't worry, again, I'll be covering every other commander as well that has been overhauled. There will be videos coming out there over the next days, plus other things. So there you go. Hope this has been helpful for you in sort of getting an idea if you actually want to use the doctrine, or even get it if you haven't done it before. And if you haven't, subscribe, like, share, comment on it. And if you like what I do, do consider donating or pledging on Patreon. Every little bit helps me, of course, keep making these videos. So thank you all, and see you all another time for another video. Cheers.